is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Maybe you're listening later on the podcast platform of your choice. We have a great show for you this evening, but if you guys don't mind, I'd love to do a very self-serving announcement here.
Yeah, let's talk about how great you are at the top of the show.
Comic Book Club News, which is the daily
We all
news.
share in this, Pete.
Absolutely. Yes.
this
I
is
mean, it's the
our
Comic
joint-
Book Club brand. Comic Book Club News, the daily news program that we put out last night, won the podcast awards in the arts category, which I am extremely surprised about. In full transparency,
Comics are art.
Comics are art. That is not why I'm surprised, Pete.
Yeah.
I knew it was in the arts category. I was surprised because, like, I did watch the show because I was like, whatever. It's not going to win. There's too many whatevers.
Wow,
and then I looked
like
afterwards.
British prestige actor, Alex.
And then I went to the site to be like, I guess I'm curious who did win. And there was a little trophy next to the name, and it was very cute. So
It's very exciting.
Are they going to send you a little trophy?
What?
A little trophy. The biggest takeaway here is we are journalists.
We are. And one of our first tasks, we were chatting about this over text. Pete was like, as journalists, I think we need to report on the Joker 2 this weekend. And I was like, Pete, I don't know. I didn't love that movie. And Pete was very adamant about it. That he was a journalist and he should see the Joker 2.
I don't understand what you guys think is fun. You know, you say things as friends, and then you use it against me.
Hey, what are you talking about? What barriers do you have? You were talking about Joker 2. Like, of course we're going to talk about it. And of course it would come up that if you don't actually see it as a point of...
I'm not a journalist. I don't pretend to be one, but we should get this show started. We've got amazing guests.
We do. Just to wrap up this portion, though, thank you to everybody who has been listening to and supporting Comic Book Club News. Thank you particularly to everybody on our Patreon Slack who has been so awesome about it and was very supportive, particularly in the nomination process. And yeah, thank you to the podcast awards as well. That's very flattering. And
congratulations.
Awesome.
Great job, Alex.
Oh,
very exciting.
All right, we have some great guests for you this evening who are not me and not us, so why don't we bring them in? One of them is the creator of Comix.one, Saurabh Bhatia. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
hello.
Welcome.
Saurabh, welcome. Welcome to the show. Excited to chat about this platform. This is such a cool upstart platform with a lot of things that are going on. So rather than me pitch it, I'd love to hear you sort of pitch the general idea behind Comix.one.
Awesome. First of all, thanks a lot for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm tuned for all the people out there. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. Still morning here. I just finished my morning cup of coffee and I'm all charged up for this interview.
Nice.
Nice.
So,
juiced.
Yeah. All juiced up. Yeah, you're right. So thank you for this opportunity. And Comix.one is a lot of things, but in a nutshell, it's a place where we're trying to create a space for indie creators and fans to come together. We are planning to be like this one-stop place, for now we started with a marketplace because that's a problem that needs real solving. After the crowdfunding ends, a lot of comic books they don't have a place where they can go keep selling and keep finding new readers, new fans, and and they have to rely on another crowdfunding campaign to come and get that next wave of readers. So what we're trying to do in the first place is create the space where they can come and post their books that they've already created and then find new readers, for these books. That's very simple. We have Art of Hellhound coming very soon. If you know about them, they're a fantastic creator from Canada. And cool. And we're going to follow this up with a fully integrated digital crowdfunding platform. So, when creators come on board, they can run a crowdfunding campaign and fulfill it directly through our app. So instead of sending somebody a Dropbox link or a link to Google Drive, they can simply tell them that your books are now available on the platform. They can read it online and read it on our app. We're actually just working with Apple to finalize our app release. We've been working
Nice.
with them for past couple of weeks, going back and forth. They're like, "Oh yeah, we need some small changes to be done." Like, okay, yeah, whatever. so,
Well,
yeah, so we've. Sorry,
oh,
you're
not
saying.
to interrupt you, but it's so interesting to start with a marketplace. I feel like we've seen a crop of crowdfunding platforms pop up. So why start with the marketplace first and then bring in the crowdfunding versus vice versa?
That's a very interesting question. I think like I personally feel that this is a bigger problem for a lot of creators. Like for them, crowdfunding is because there are so many platforms now. There's Zoop, there's
Mm-hmm.
Indiegogo, and so many. Zoop is obviously tailored for comics. That's great, and they have a lot of other beautiful things built into the platform as well. But the real problem is that the big drop happens in sales for the comic book readers once the crowdfunding ends. They don't have another avenue where they can go and keep selling, and like go and keep like, where do they go and interact with their fans after that? It just goes from like this big platform push to then going on their individual websites or their individual like social media accounts and stuff like that. So there needs to be a place. That's what I felt when I was doing my own crowdfunding back in the day in 2017. I saw that whole thing myself first, and everybody kept asking me, "Oh, where's your book available after this? Where can we easily just buy and read it, or where can we just get it shipped to us in print?" So like then also these fandoms are global, right? You
Mm-hmm.
may get like 50 fans in the US, or 25 fans in Canada, and 15 in Australia, for example. Uh, you can't really ship to everyone, each one of them, post crowdfunding, right? Because in crowdfunding, you're printing the books, you get the print minimums and everything, and then you're shipping them out all in one go. But after that, it becomes harder because shipping to Australia breaks your bank.
Yeah, and to be clear, I actually would not even to be clear to like to bring up one part of the website that I was really impressed by because I see this immediately and immediately like my alarm bells start going off. Honestly, whenever we see a new platform, but you very specifically say under the Our Story section, we're bringing some fresh thought into how the indie comics will go to the next generation. No, we're not talking about the NFTs or blockchains. We're not into any of those things. So
Love
that's great
that.
to hear.
Great
Very
news.
excited to hear that. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that sort of thing. It seems like us, you're very anti.
Well, and
Yeah,
it feels
yeah.
like everyone just throws at the end. They're like, and we're doing these NFTs. And it's like, wait a second, that's the scam you're running this whole time. So, way to put it up front. But yes,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
tell us about it.
No, I have to update that about a section with an addendum of AI because that's the new thing that's come up since then. And we are very like you said, for there's a lot of issues with blockchain. There was this brief period of time in, I think, 2017, 2018, where there was a lot of happening in the whole blockchain world, and there was a big movement around it, as it is happening with AI right now. At that time, a lot of companies, including like Kickstarter, they were talking about moving to blockchain. And one of the big issues with creators is in blockchain is there's a lot to talk about safety of it and safety of NFTs. And there were people who were grifting off other people's IPs, things like that. It's
I
not. It's
knew it.
yeah, right. That's the first thing humans do. They start abusing a system, right, as soon as it's created. So
Yeah.
um, for that reason, like, it doesn't sit really well with me because I'm a creator myself, and I feel the pain that other creators feel as well. So yeah, that's one of the primary reasons for not being on a blockchain or not going for NFTs. It's, to be honest, when I was doing this, I thought, what's the problem with, like, we're talking about subscriptions, NFTs, all this and that. Why can't we just do it the old fashioned way. Just put a book up there. There's a person who buys it. They pay for it. They get the product. It's as simple as that, right? Like how difficult is that? That's what the whole world of capitalism was built on, right? You put out a product, people pay for it, done. Get the product. So, yeah.
We'll
and it
talk a
feels
little
like
bit. Oh, go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
I was going to say, it feels like you spotted all these inefficiencies in the way that comics are made, and so you were like, let me just fix these. So then, is it really just creative takes the forefront here, or community building? What is from the actual creator's viewpoint? What is the draw specifically?
Yeah, for sure. So there are a few things. Obviously, this is very creator centric platform. So they obviously own the rights to and the IP of their work. In we don't in any shape or form change that. Our contract is actually pretty not. We don't even have a contract. We have a terms of service that says you own everything. Just use some images for marketing because obviously we have to do that. We have to show off the beautiful work on our platform, and that's about it. And we also, our cut is pretty generous, so we take 15% and 85% is goes directly to the creator.
Nice.
We do next day settlement, so as soon as somebody pays for your books, the next day you get money in your bank account. And it's all automated. It's very straightforward. There's no catch there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I run all of my work through you? This feels perfect.
Well, I mean, on the flip side, then I wanted to ask you a little bit about the challenges here, because I think you're probably very well aware of this, but launching a new comic book platform is not a like money in the bank, dollar bills raining down type prospect. I mean, we recently saw Omnibus shut down. Comixology obviously has its own things with Amazon, but over the time that we've been doing this show, we have talked to so many people with so many different comic platforms. So what are the challenges facing you right now, and how are you addressing them?
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge we have on the platform right now is getting as many readers as we can, because getting creators, like you said, Justin, is not a problem. When I do a pitch to the creators, they are always here. It's like, yes, I love this. I want to be on the platform. But for the readers, we still have, because these are not known IPs, a lot of them, and a lot of readers come in fresh. We have to educate them, and we have to put out as much material as possible in front of them to make that decision of buying. So we are approaching that in a few different ways. We're obviously doing this interview and a bunch of others to actually go and tell the readers. We have a beautiful marketplace with the over 300 creators on there. Come on and check out these books, and we're always there for their support as well. We're also creating a mobile app. So we have, like I talked about, we're just in process of releasing that to the Apple App Store. It has a bunch of free books that some creators want to like give away some of their books for free. It has some free books that people can read already. So if you sign up for an account, you get a bunch of free books to read to start with. That's a good bonus.
Yeah.
Well, what about, obviously you're focusing on indie creators and indie companies, but is there any thought to trying to get some of the bigger companies on there, like a Dark Horse or an Image, or down the road a Marvel or DC?
By design, I don't want to do that, because I feel like this is we create so many spaces where the communities are mixed, but I feel like the fandom for both indie and the mainstream comics, for the lack of better term, is very different. Even sometimes I know a lot of people cross over both in creation and readership, but I feel like it's a whole different piece to it. And a lot of people who end up spending a lot of money on say Dark Horse or like bigger comic books, they may or may not cross over to the indie stuff. Sometimes they may go, oh yeah, I may like this book, but they might buy just one. So this is a place where I want the indie creators to shine. That's their space. They can build it the way they want. In fact, like I'm open to any ideas if any creators have, for like how to make this platform better, or like help them tailor the space to them. We're doing some fun stuff now, like building some custom landing pages for every new creator who comes on board. So we're doing a launch with a creator who's in Britain, and they have they basically have this new book coming up, and they're doing an exclusive launch with us. So we're like creating a nice tailored pre-launch page, and like just helping them get as much traffic as possible through some Reddit posting, and like just going out and just doing the normal stuff, helping them market the book.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we also paired them up with a creator support person. So we hired a creator support person recently, and she used to work for Diamond. She knows the distribution inside out, and like she works for some other amazing comic book companies. Like she works for Battle Quest Comics, I think, which is a mid-market publisher. So these people, like they are professionals. They have worked in comic book industry for years, and they know how these books are marketed. So just pairing these people with with the creators, and then helping them find the readership is what we're trying to do slightly differently from others. Yeah.
I'm definitely sold on the platform. Before we let you go, though, if people do want to check it out, it's Comix.one. Is that correct? And
that's correct.
Basically, you can just go on there and go and buy comics, right? Like it's as simple as that.
It's as easy as that.
Well, there's no subscription or anything like that. Like it's not a
Alex. Like you go in and you ask for a comic and they give you one.
It's never how it works. It's always an issue. It's always an issue.
And sometimes you have to spin the rack around and it goes in a circle, so it doesn't. You don't have like the one.
I spin in the circle. I keep the spinner rack. No,
you're in trouble.
That's not how you do it. Okay.
How did you win a podcast award?
I don't know, man. Good luck, I guess. Saurabh, before we let you go, anything else you want to plug?
No, if there are readers out there who are looking for new material to read, just come in. We're also going to release some beautiful features in the next coming months around directly interacting with your creators and creating forums and have like fan theories about the books that they're they're publishing. So there's a lot coming up. Just come in, try us, give us a chance, tell us how we can do better.
Yeah, Comix.one.
Wow.
Love it. Saurabh, thank you so much for coming on. I'd say good night, but good morning to you, and I hope you have a lovely day.
Enjoy your full day.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there we go. Once again, that is called Comix.one, Comix.one. Go and check it out. Great platform. Really, I'm sold on it. I think that's
I was checking out some of the comics on there. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. There we go.
And it feels genuinely in support of the indie world, which, is hard to really find.
Yeah, in like 1 week, we're going to find out he's actually super into NFTs. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm kidding. I'm
hard
kidding.
Yeah, hard pivot to NFTs.
Hard pivot to, I don't know. I couldn't think of any technology. Why don't we bring in our NFT very soon? We're going to be right on the cusp.
Oh, boy.
The cusp of the end.
Count me out.
Yeah,
we're going to be there when
that's the end,
dies.
right? Like that's when you have a bell curve. This part over here, that's the cusp.
Like how we're all on the cusp of our lives right now.
Why don't we bring in our two next guests? They are the creator behind the audiobook Hellboy, the B.P.R.D, the Goddess of Manhattan, among many, many other things. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Sniegoski and Chris Golden. Welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Thank you so much for coming in. So this is, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is the third in a trilogy, right? Like there was Hellboy, A Plague of Wasps, Lobster Johnson, The Proteus Club, and now we're getting this Hellboy thing. Is it a actual trilogy in terms of connecting the story, or are they kind of like more standalone?
So it's definitely more standalone, but they do share connective tissue. Narrative wise, there are things that occur in Hellboy, A Plague of Wasps, and especially in Lobster Johnson, The Proteus Club, that carry on into The Goddess of Manhattan. But you definitely don't have to have experienced the first two to enjoy this one at all.
Yeah. Well, I love this. I've listened to a bunch of this. Full disclosure, I've not listened to the full 6 hours, but it is, for anybody who wants to know, there's like 6 solid hours of Hellboy goodness you can get.
Nice.
It's just a awesome radio play narrative with these perfect sounding Hellboy voices throughout. I'd love to hear you talk about a little bit about the process, because you've both worked on different types of fiction. You've both worked on different aspects of the Hellboy universe. What is it like translating this into audio? What makes it different?
Well, and this is like basically the opposite of comics in a lot of ways. It's a sound, no pictures. Still words, but you don't read them, you hear them.
But you've seen the pictures in your skull.
Right, exactly.
It's a skull movie.
And there are always strange things happening inside Tom's skull. Tom, why don't you take that question?
All right.
I'm so sorry.
Well, what was the process like? See, because the thing is that I had done the first 2,
right?
Basically there were things going on in my life, and I was like, okay, well, I'm a little worried about this deadline wise, and that means the only person that I would have brought in to co-write this third one with me is Tom, because of our history collaborating as a writing team, and also writing together within the Mignolaverse, and Tom's work solo in the Mignolaverse, but also that this is a particular discipline. It's a particular medium, and Tom had already been working in this medium on the upcoming Grim Death. So you can take it from there, Tom.
Yeah. I'm doing a dramatic podcast based on the book that I wrote with Mike Mignola called Grim Death and Bill the Electrocuted Criminal. So I had already been working on like teleplays for those, like breaking that whole book down and doing scripts on each episode of that adaptation. So I was kind of familiar with what Chris was asking me to do. So I kind of had the whole audio thing already kind of spinning in my head in terms of how to approach this. So yeah, it was cool. It was kind of, I had to kind of get used to the fact that, all right, Chris had already kind of started this thing, and I had to kind of become familiar with what he'd done, what he'd introduced in the previous 2 audiobooks. So that took a little bit of I had to get my balance on that a bit. But
pivoting off of what Justin was saying a little bit, I mean, I think maybe even more than a lot of other comics, Hellboy and B.P.R.D. is so identified with Mike Mignola's look, with his art. And obviously there's a lot of other amazing artists that have tackled it, but they're all sort of working off that initial model. What is it like when you're tackling something like this where it removes that element entirely?
Well, what's interesting is that I feel Mignola has as much of a sound as he does a look. There's a very specific way these characters talk, the way these characters interact, the world in which these characters kind of function in. So it wasn't that difficult to imagine like the sounds of this thing. So you always, when you're scripting a comic, you're like, oh, visually this is going to be really, really cool. So, but when you're doing this, it's kind of like, how do I make this sound good? How the verbal gymnastics that these characters do when they talk, it was really neat to kind of close your eyes and have that stuff going on inside your head, as well as picturing it.
Yeah, I feel like, look, those of us, I assume you guys are in this ballpark too, although Tom and I are not young men, but
speak for yourself.
Yeah, right. No, but I've been in this world for 25 years, right? Since issue 1.
Yeah.
And so you can't write this stuff without seeing it in your head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not, you're saying like, what's it like to do it without the pictures, without the images, but we're not doing it without the pictures or the images. They're with us the whole time, as is Mike's style. Although, interestingly, I have come to realize, and I think Mike even said something about this to me at one point, that sort of when I work in the Mignolaverse, and Tom, I don't know, I feel like you and I are a little different with this, but when we work together, it comes there too, is like, when I work in the Mignolaverse, the stories that I'm writing are a little bit closer to reality than the ones that Mike does when it's Mike doing his own thing. So there's a little bit more tangible, New York in this than there would be if Mike had written it. And I'm not, that's, it's just because I think that he has, his imagination is a very unique place and only he lives there,
Yeah.
It's also pretty scary in there, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny hearing you say like that Mignolaverse has a sound. I'd never really thought of it. I think the characters definitely do. But then I was like, oh, what does it sound like? And I was like, oh, it does. It's actually sounds like it's very damp. It's very, it's like metal on stone.
Yeah.
And it is very evocative once you're in there. So did that lead you just from this is getting granular, but from a script writing point of view, were you like literally writing in sound thoughts as you're going through here?
I was for sure, because again, you're picturing environments. What's this place sound like? What am I hearing dripping water? Am I hearing creaking floorboards? Is there something moaning in the background?
That was me.
Always, yeah.
Oh, that was you?
That was me moaning in the background. No, but I also think that we're really fortunate because Graphic Audio has their secret weapon, who is Scott McCormick, who directs all of these and really is the guy who puts it all together. He isn't just directing the actors, he's directing the sound. He's designing the sound for all of these. And he's the voice of Hellboy in these things.
Wow.
So we have Scott there to basically say, okay, these guys have given me their soundscape, but also he's such a huge fan that he is also able to bring his skills to bear, not only using our script and our suggested sounds, but also what he knows it sounds like in his head. So I think these three books are phenomenal. And I think Scott deserves a lot of the credit for the impact, the effect that they have. Plus it's just really fun. Anytime you can say, okay, I saw somebody suggest the other day that they really want to see a Hellboy movie done in the Leica Studios puppetry style.
Wow.
And I would love that. And because I feel like anytime you can take stories in this universe to a different medium, it's always so cool because adapting it is half the fun.
Yeah. Well, and what is it about Hellboy that is so adaptable? I feel like a lot of characters from comics and any medium struggle with that switch, but it does feel like Hellboy is able to go anywhere and continues to.
I mean, for me, and Tom, I want to divert this to young Hellboy in a second, because for me, it's Mike's particular balance of grim, horror story, mythology, folklore, and his sense of humor sort of side by side, and also the sort of blue collar aesthetic of Hellboy himself.
Yeah.
So when you have room for humor, but you also have this really wild, supernatural, fantastical world, it allows it to be more adaptable because it isn't super serious. It isn't, all of this, which is why there's room for things like Witchfinder and Young Hellboy, which Tom wrote. Those two things exist in the same universe, but they're polar opposites.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think is great about this audiobook is you get to go back to sort of what's in my mind prime B.P.R.D. days, because you've got Hellboy, you've got Liz Sherman, you got Abe Sapien right at the center there. And I don't say that dismissively in terms of what you've been able to do with the universe now, actually really let it grow and change in some wild ways. But What is it about those core 3 characters that work so well?
I think it's the rapport. I think that rapport that was established by Mike, like really early on, that just lends itself to snappy dialogue and that the way that the friendships are established through their banter. That was actually my favorite. I think that was probably my favorite thing when I was writing these things, was getting to do the back and forth with the characters to show that there's this unique friendship that they have. And that's fantastic.
Sorry.
That's all right. If you need to get it, you need to get it.
Take it.
To make sure it's not an emergency. Well, speaking of the fun of it, because, you know, it seems like such a cool thing to be able to play in, you know, in the Hellboy universe and all that kind of stuff. Talk about your favorite part of the process. Is it like coming up with fun lines for Hellboy to say? Is it the adventures that you get to write, the enemies you get to create, the scary villains that lurk in the background? Like, let's talk about some of the things that like really make you excited to work in a world like this.
So I'd say yes.
That's for all the above.
It's all of that. No, you know, the thing is, look, so first of all, again, like I talk about this all the time, everybody has their own frame of reference, their own Tom and I share. You know, if you create a Venn diagram of the things that mutated you into the mutant you are, we share a lot of those same things in our Venn diagram. Mike and I and Mike and Tom also share a lot of those elements, not necessarily the same, right? So Mike and I share things, you know, but there's a lot of overlap there. And so I'm sure that's why Tom and I responded to the original material the way we did, you know, at the beginning. But also it's just that that there is room for so many different kinds of stories in the Mignolaverse. And I have to say, I still at this point, you know, Mike just had the opening for this amazing art gallery show of his work in New York City a week ago.
Oh, cool.
Which is amazing. And it's recognizing him for his art. But I think still to this point, I still think he doesn't get enough credit for something that has never been and probably will never be matched in the comic book industry, which is having created this entire comic book universe with a beginning, middle, and apparent end, although Tom and I are doing Frankenstein New World, which carries on after the end. Mm-hmm. That's never been rebooted. That's never been, it's never erased anything. They've never retconned anything. It's just it's one story that has room for all of this amazing stuff. And I have to say, as much as we give him crap about all kinds of things because we've known each other so long, he just doesn't get enough credit for that. And he deserves to have respect, not just for his art, but for his creative imagination and his dedication to this world, you know?
So with all that breadth of the universe in mind, where do you go to bring out a new villain or monster? You have the Goddess of Manhattan here, who I think I briefly dated a few years ago. And so I want to know sort of where you're pulling that new villain from.
I mean, it's not just Goddess of Manhattan, right, Tom? It's, again, so we're doing Frankenstein,
Right. I mean, you sit there and you go, all right, how do I get as good as Mignola is at this kind of thing? You kind of rub your chin and you go, would he like this? Does he like? All right, here's what we got, and he'll go, this.
Right.
And he'll go, oh, all right, that makes it much better. But
it's important to him that the stories fit, but there are still gaps. I mean, I'm doing Hellboy in Love in the comics because there is this gap that he purposely left, sort of to be filled in. But there are always gaps in the story. With Goddess of Manhattan, it was really a matter of like, okay, not just where does this fit, but how can we do a story that takes place in 3 different timelines? Because again, the events of Lobster Johnson, the Proteus Club, take place in the early 1930s. This is 50 years later, and it's or 60 years later, and it changes everything, which is what I love the fact that he has given room to so many creators to be able to do their own thing, but still within this universe, But monsters, there's no end to monsters, I mean, well, like we all know that beneath the subway in Manhattan, there are old subway tunnels that are abandoned or had been built and abandoned before they were ever used. But of course, it only makes logical sense that beneath that, there are other tunnels, right? I mean, Manhattan is like, turtles all the way down, man. It's, who knows what's down there. And that's the, but like Tom, when we were talking about, we were on the phone one day and we were talking about how Ben Stenbeck had done this amazing graphic, illustration of all the main Mignolaverse heroes. And in that graphic was Mignola's version of Frankenstein. But he was holding a staff topped with the sword from, what do they call it now? I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
We're old.
Yeah. So they're, well, you're old. I'm not old. I'm still in my 50s. And so we're on the phone talking about it, and we're talking about how it was sort of not canon, like he would never have had that. And then I was like, well, what if he did? And as so often happens when we're having conversations, one of us will say, you know what we should do? And then it leads to this conversation. I was like, we need to do a story where, it's the new world after the end of B.P.R.D. 2,000 years have passed or whatever it's been. And Frankenstein emerges from the subterranean world with, and we follow him on his sort of Kwai Chang Caine Kung Fu adventures across the new world. And Tom was like, do you think Mike would go for it? And I said, let's find out. We called him and told him about it. And he was like, that's a great idea. So there you go. Cool. I mean, it just makes sense.
As Mike always says to me, like when I'm having a problem, and I was, what about this? And he'll just like spew the solution, and he'll go, Tom, it writes itself. It just writes itself.
I think I have a little bit of an intuition about this based on how you guys are talking about it, but you had mentioned these gaps there. Is there an actual story Bible somewhere where it's like between this year and this year, nothing happened to Hellboy, or is it all in Mike Mignola's
head? Game.
I think the answer is both. I mean, there's no longer, once upon a time, there was a timeline done. And I think all the things that were in that timeline are still accurate and still canon. The only times that canon has changed, as far as I know, is the novels that I wrote were canon. But when I did the Bones of Giants comic with Matt Smith and changed events, or in Hellboy in Love, I'm changing certain things in the comic, then the comic version supersedes the novel version. But there is a timeline somewhere. It's not complete. Chris Roberson knows a ton of it. But I think, obviously there needs to be an updated one. But Mike also, I think, doesn't like necessarily nailing everything down like that. Because if things don't have dates, you don't necessarily want to date them, because then you're locked in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's sort of fitting that it's like an oral history that is sort of like, you know what, I'm going to fudge this a little bit because I've got a great story for it.
Yeah. Well, but if something says in the comics what the date is, that is locked in stone, and you have to work around it. Like, I just did a one-shot Hellboy and the B.P.R.D. Comics one-shot that I can't talk about yet, but I did it for a specific artist. But before I dated the story, I emailed Chris Roberson, and I'm like, hey, this takes place in the 1960s. I'm thinking about this date. And he's like, give me a minute. And he comes back like, a little while later. He says, okay, that should work, et cetera, et cetera. So we check on this stuff to make sure that we're.
It's very funny that Hellboy is sort of the B.P.R.D. and everyone is sort of like just getting avails for anyone. It's like, yeah, he's good until May 1967, and then he's busy for 2 weeks, and then back ready.
The other thing, let me add one last thing. Is the other thing that Mike has always done, and that we've done in the comics as well, that we've done, and in prose, and he did it just as part of the, should we say, sort of painting of the world when he first started doing this, is Hellboy would often comment, and other characters later would comment about that time when blah, blah, blah. And so there are all of these unwritten stories that are referred to, but usually not filled in. And so that stuff is out there too. So there's, there are still all kinds of stories that could be told. So who knows how long it will go on.
Before I forget, and I did forget for a little bit, but I wanted to bring up, we have a chef down in New Orleans named Brent Macris. He's an amazing chef. He every week either curates or creates a cocktail for us on the show. And this week he created a Hellboy Goddess Manhattan drink. It's mezcal, chili liqueur, Campari, orange juice, orange bitters, and orange peel, inspired by the Goddess of Manhattan. So there you go. Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty much it. Justin, did you make one of those or close to it?
Close, and it's very good.
Right, fair enough. Close enough.
Right.
A couple other things I wanted to ask you guys about. I know, like you're saying, you have a lot of other projects just in general, but also in the Hellboy universe. Tom, Chris teed you up for this, but let's talk about young Hellboy a little bit. Yeah. What is it like writing him, aging him down, and finding that particular pocket of the universe?
It's really fun because it allows you to kind of tap into the goofiness of a kid. So it's like how do I do Hellboy and mix it with the Little Rascals? How do you bring that kind of like a fun aspect to it, but still keeping the sense of danger, or you don't want it just to be a total lark where it's just kind of just silly across the board. You still want a decent story that means something in the context of the character's history. So it was fun just being able to be a little lighter, because this is a Hellboy that doesn't have the history yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he hasn't been exposed to anything really horrible yet. So it's kind of neat to have that kind of like wide-eyed innocence to play.
He has that sense of adventure.
Yeah. I mean, his sense of adventure is from reading pulps, like reading Lobster Johnson and things like that. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really fun.
If Mike's not going to write it, Tom is the, usually I spend all my time teasing Tom, but if Mike's not going to write it, Tom is really, I think, the only person who should be writing that character, young Hellboy, because of the, that sort of wide-eyed innocence. He looks like a cranky old bastard, which he usually is, but he does. He's able to channel that.
Yeah, who are you talking about, Chris?
Yeah.
We got a question here from YouTube that I'm going to bring up, and then not to embarrass the asker, but Stanley says, wonder if they took any inspiration from the movies. So Christopher, you did an uncredited write, I believe, on the 2019 Hellboy movie, and you co-wrote Hellboy the Crooked Man. So did you take any inspiration from the movies?
No.
Okay.
That's very simple. Look, I love the Del Toro films for sure, but that's Guillermo del Toro's version of Hellboy, and they're fantastic. But when you're working on the original, you stick with the special sauce.
Well, I mean, on that note, since Hellboy the Crooked Man, I believe, is coming out on digital next week. Now, what was the experience like working on that, and what can people expect from the movie when it finally hits stateside?
I have to say, I can tell you about the experience of working on it. I have not seen the finished product. I will see it when you see it.
Oh, wow.
I will see it on when I rent it.
Nice.
Okay. They can't send you like a DVD or
nope.
a VHS or
They
something?
did not. I thought that might happen, but it did not.
All right.
Ouch.
But basically, you know, we had a mandate, you know, from the beginning, which was Mike knew he wanted to do the Crooked Man, and he did not feel comfortable with you know, the plans that were in the offing at that point. And so we talked and agreed that we were going to write it together. And the first thing we did was write I wrote sort of like a philosophical statement to the studio to say, like, you know, look, if you're not going to work with a budget the size of, you know, of a Marvel movie, then you should stick to what makes the comics work, which is these quiet, human stories about a guy who isn't outwardly human, you know. And they're horror stories that Hellboy is a part of, right? And that was what the Crooked Man's about. It's a folk horror story with Hellboy as, you know, as a member of the cast and as your ostensible hero. So we sort of talked to them about that, and they were on board with it. And so we did a couple drafts of the script, but everything was on very much fast forward. And then Brian Taylor came in as the director, and he did a big revision pass that was, I think, partly because Brian loves Hellboy as well, and he had his thoughts about it, and that was great. But also, I think because the budget demanded certain things not happen. And so I don't know what the result is. I really don't.
Wow.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
I listen here. What I will say is that I know Mike has seen it several times in its current form and is happy.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
That should be a bolster.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question bouncing off of that, because like you're talking about it, we talk about this a lot whenever we're talking about Hellboy books. And this is not dismissive, this is complimentary, but a lot of Hellboy stories feel like Hellboy goes to a place and he's like, I hear something weird is going on. And then something weird happens and he's like, well, that was weird. And that's pretty much sort of like the arc of a lot of the stories, which feels to me tailor-made for TV, not necessarily movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Has there been any movement in that direction?
I you know, look, I'm not in charge of that.
Sure.
I know there have certainly been conversations, and there are people, pretty impressive people, who would love to take Hellboy and do a television series, but they don't have the rights to do that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what you know, what the future holds. I think you're right. I think Hellboy would be an amazing TV series with the right people behind it and the right budget. You know, but interestingly, you know, the description you just gave of the arc of many Hellboy stories, obviously a lot of them are big, bombastic stories, but a lot of Hellboy stories are like that because of Mike's love of folktales.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, most folktales are, you know, person walks into situation, discovers situation is all fucked up, and tries to survive said situation, right? Yeah, I mean, I think they're great. You know, I mean, I would love to see them do the Wolves.
That's not how my grandma used to tell them, but I think that's right.
I mean, I think at the core of it, if you asked your grandma, is this the core of most of these folktales, she would say that sounds right.
Grandma, how fucked up is this situation? Because I don't want to get into it.
And she's like, first of all, I'm a ghost, so very fucked up.
Yeah, she's a ghost.
Before we wrap up here, anything else you guys want to plug? Obviously, we talked about a lot of stuff. Everybody should listen to the audiobook. It really is great. We didn't even really get into the voice work, which is just pitch perfect. Like everybody sounds absolutely perfect. It's lovely. But Tom, just to go to you first, anything else folks should check out from you?
Well, the Grim Death and Bill the Electrocuted Criminal, when that finally, I'm not sure when it's going to air. But that's coming, and actually we're doing new books. They're going to do a reissue of the first book, and then Bad Hand Books is putting out a new edition of the first book, and there'll be new grim death adventures that I'll be writing with Mike and my writing partner Janine Atchison. That's going to be very exciting. I've been dying to write that character again for years. So getting the rights back and stuff like that has been really, really cool. So yeah, there's that, and I'm doing the Herculoids for.
Oh, Herculoids, yeah.
That's super exciting.
Awesome. Chris, what about you? What else would you like to plug?
I mean, my latest novel is The House of Last Resort, which came out in hardcover in January. And I don't know, man, lots of comics coming, but Dark Horse, they've been stocking up on stuff. So I think that 2025 is going to see a whole boatload of Mignolaverse and other stuff. Oh, I should also plug Tim Levin and I are doing our creator-owned series at Dark Horse, Mortal Terror, with Peter Bergting, who is also the artist on Frankenstein New World. And volume 1 of Mortal Terror is coming out in hardcover soon. I think this month. I could be wrong.
Oh, I should just, I probably shouldn't mention this, but that book broke my brain. Reading that book, just like taking the vampires and humans, reversing them, there was a shift that I could feel in my brain while it was happening. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. Wait until you see what happens in subsequent volumes.
Oh, man. All right. Nice. I'm not going to survive. Chris. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Congrats on the audiobook, audio novel. What do we call it, actually? What is it?
Every company calls it something different. I would say I call it an audio drama.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Nice. That works for me. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night. Congrats. Congratulations on the book.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Right. Take care.
All right. There we go. Once again, it is called, Hellboy and the B.P.R.D, The Goddess of Manhattan. You can check it out from Graphic Audio right now. And I go look at the prices here. It's actually on sale for $12.72.
Hey,
digital format.
Come on.
Yeah, come on. Absolutely. It's awesome. And folks, we're going to move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop questions in the comments. You can put
drop questions. You've been at the Podcast Awards after party for several days, right, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been schnockered. What's going on? What should we talk about? What's happening?
Are you still drinking water? Or
yeah, having some water.
Oh man,
hard water.
Hard water, full of minerals.
You all right, man?
Yeah, I'm okay, Pete. Are you okay? Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. But
what are you drinking, Pete?
I'm trying a little, I'm raiding my brother's fridge, and I got a little twisted tea. It's
getting twisted.
Oh, okay. You don't want to get twisted with Joker too, but you'll get twisted with your tea. I see how it is.
All right, man. I was going to wait until Week and Geek to rip into you on this, but listen, Joker was not a good movie. No. I'm not going to go see Joker 2. So you guys can talk all the shit you want about the fact that we host a comic book club show and I should have to go see it, but I'm not gonna, okay?
Well, here's the thing. Joker would love that. He would love how twisted you got that you're not even going to see
He
the
loves
movie.
it you're twisted.
Yeah, it makes him stronger.
Here's the thing, Pete. It's a different movie, technically. So
I'm mad about the whole thing. I'm mad about the whole thing.
Why are you mad?
Because I hated it so much. I didn't want another one to get made. I didn't want it to do well. I thought it was a shitty idea and just a horrible thing to bring to the world. And then, it did so well. People are making a second one. And then you got Lady Gaga, who I used to respect. And the fact that she's doing this movie makes me a little upset about it.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like it's a little bit of a folie à deux, would you say?
Yeah.
No.
And
I don't appreciate the French that you put on that.
I feel like you're saying I thought the French was lovely. I wish you would just inject more of your love of the Romance languages, Alex, into the
Merci.
Very good. Now, Pete, let me ask you, is it because your expectations were high and then you were disappointed? Because I would think that just coming in cold and seeing a Joker movie where people were nominated for Oscars, where a lot of prestige was brought to it. It changed a lot of other projects got greenlit because of Joker's success. There's a lot of world around this, even if you didn't respond to the movie.
I don't like it because it's a dark idea about a man being empowered to do horrible things.
You're the biggest Punisher fan. Just total side note. Literal.
Why are you bringing up old shit, bro? I'm trying to talk about Joker here.
But the way you just described it, it's a man who is pushed to dark shit. That's literally the log line of the Punisher also. So I'm just curious why this is
not. It's different. It's different somehow, okay?
When you bring me out, can you call me Punisher? That would be pretty good, right, Pete?
Two sides of the same coin.
Yep. All right. Michael Tillman says, I've just realized how recent events are really going to put a hitch in Pete staying recent with his RIP nods. We're going to have a special Trivia Wake episode coming soon featuring Pete.
Oh, man, I hope not.
That's a great idea. We just upend the bucket and dump out all of the recently deceased celebrities.
Oh,
all trivia episode.
I thought that he was saying that I'm going to die because of them.
Oh, no. He was saying that there are so many celebrities have died recently that you're going to have to do multiple rounds of trivia, a.k.a. my nightmare. I won't be there for that show.
Man,
Kyle Jones.
Chris Christopherson is a big blow for every genre, basically.
Save it, man. You can't be spending all my, gold coins, bro.
Well, I'm so sorry. Unless he's literally in 3 minutes when you do trivia, then it's okay to talk about it now because we won't talk about it till Christmas Day or whatever.
Man, you really steal my thunder, man. I'm glad that we do this
thunder?
all improv.
Is that
we
what it is?
are your thunder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You are the wind beneath our wings. Kyle Jones says, congrats on comic book news. It's how I start every weekday. Thank you so much, Kyle. That's awesome.
Hey, Kyle
are you
Jones.
guys excited for DC All In starting tomorrow? As a follow-up, Pablo D. Martinez says, what is everyone's reaction to DC's All In? Are you all in or are you all out of there?
I'm excited. I mean, I've really enjoyed.
We got to read it and see what's going on.
We got to read it, but I've been really enjoying Absolute Power. From what I know about All In, it does feel like they're sort of, rather than changing a ton of stuff, they're sort of saying like, okay, now, and sort of like turning on the turbojets right at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Absolute Power, more like absolute snooze fest. Am I right? I mean, come on.
Wow.
Gene Shalit over here. I am excited about it as well. And I've definitely bought into the creator hype online because all of the DC creators are sending each other copies of their books and then posting like, this is great. This is the best thing I've ever seen. And everybody's like, no, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And it feels genuine, like these are not people to just jump in and like, post the stuff. So that
like no joke, the hype about Kelly Thompson's Wonder Woman book is unbelievable right now. It has hyped me so much because you don't see it. You don't see everyone sharpen their spears so hard for one particular book in a great way. And I can't.
Is that a good thing?
And I think that's the ethos. That's the thing that Scott Snyder has been talking about. The reason they called it DC All In is because they want the whole comic book industry together, getting people in shops, getting people excited about comics and the possibility of comics. Like that's the goal there. He's been very open about the fact that like if DC does well, Marvel does well and vice versa. And then Dark Horse does well and Image and everybody else, everything is good for everything. So that's what they want to do by making DC stronger is by making everything else stronger as well. It's not DC all winners squad or anything. It's literally them being like, hands in the middle, let's do this, let's go. And I love that. I'm very excited. But we'll see. Starts this week and then kicks off in earnest. So exciting times. Yeah. Easy Reader says you're going to get into the Marvel XL Masterwork cards. I don't even know what that is.
Well, they're like regular Masterwork cards, but they're bigger because they're XL.
Probably.
XL is extra large, technically. I mean, those Marvel Masterworks cards are... I don't want to say foundational, but that is the first word that came out when it comes to like the iconic imagery that I associate with a lot of the Marvel characters. There's a Shadowcat animation that keeps going around Twitter. Have you guys seen this?
Oh yeah, the one coming through the wall and
through the wall. That is unbelievable, and it takes me back to all of that trading card world. where those cards really were. Like, I would just flip in between reading comics. I would just flip through my book and look at the card. Man,
read about their
if I had
power.
that
Find
time,
out how powerful they are.
how much was their charisma?
That's an important thing to know when you're reading cards. Stray Bullet says, not a question, but I just wanted to take a second to thank everyone for the CBC bump. Our Project Shift has started. It's been amazing. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, Shift.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody who donated to Stray Bullet's amazing project. It sounds great. He's posted some pictures in the Patreon Slack. Looks delicious. I hope it's a huge success.
Go check it out at Brew Carré. Am I saying that correctly? Tell me. I'm probably not, but check it out down in New Orleans. It's a great brewery, and the fact that we got Stray Bullies bringing the food on top, gotta get there.
Oh,
and now it's time for the weekly Schreikler Stumper question. What are some of your favorite audio drama adaptations of comics? What characters do you want to hear in that medium but haven't? Well, I'll tell you, I've heard Hellboy. That's one character that I've heard, and I enjoyed that.
What about the Wolverine?
Wolverine, yeah, the Wolverine.
Oh, right. Oh, I forgot about that. That was good.
That was a well-produced one.
Yeah,
I also listened to the I forget. Someone will name this. The series that ended up with Old Man Hawkeye being the main character in the most recent iteration. It's the
Wastelands.
The Wastelands, yes, the Wastelanders, maybe is what it's called.
Wastelanders, that's what it was. Yeah.
That was a wild thing to listen to. I shot a commercial for Audible. That was the featured product, which I was like, oh man, over the plate for me.
Awesome.
Nice.
Stanley says, any plans for New York Comic Con? Any plans for in-person show? For New York Comic Con, I'll definitely be there the entire time. If anybody is going to be there, come by, say hi. I'm going to try to bring some stickers and stuff with me. So if you find me around the con, I'm happy to give you a sticker. Ask me for a sticker. Justin, you're going to try to stop by at some point?
I will be there at least one day, maybe more. Not sure exactly which ones. Okay. Thursday, Sunday is probably
any forward movement on the in-person show?
Yes. It's tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
I can't make it. I can't be there.
Make it now. I'll reschedule it. I'll keep you posted.
And just to wrap it up here, Pete won't be able to come to New York Comic Con because he's watching Joker 2 on a loop that weekend, I believe. You rented out the theater just for yourself, right?
No, I will not give any money or time to that movie. Thank you.
Why you hate it so much? It's
the
crazy.
First one pissed me off so much.
Because of the dancing?
No.
Because too twisted?
I didn't like it at all. I did not like it.
Were you too twisted?
I do not like these eggs.
Green.
Wow.
Okay. That's a terrible note to wrap this up on, but why don't we do that here? Thank you for your audience questions. We are going to move on with our next section, which is
before you move on, just a quick comment from Stray Bullet. I have a whole brewery with an outdoor stage available for a live show, and heard the food and beer is really good.
Oh, come on, Justin. See if you can book that. Come on, Justin.
Oh,
I bet I could book the stage. I could definitely do that. Right.
Are there any comic creators down in New Orleans? There's the guys who are doing, we were just talking about this before we came on. James Gunn announced that they're doing a DC Studios animated film called Dynamic Duo that is about Jason Todd and Dick Grayson. And it's going to be a mix of traditional animation, CGI, and puppetry. And I believe the puppetry studio is down in New Orleans. So
hell yeah.
Let's get him. Let's get him. Let's do it. We'll make it happen sometime in the next 15 to 20 years. And now it's time for trivia with Pete LePage.
All right, this is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free to Midtown Comics online because if you had $25, you want to get some comic books. So all we need is a first hand up, pick me, or make Justin do it, and we'll give it to charity, something along those lines.
That'd be a crazy request. When there are a lot of people who could use a fun trip to the old comic book shop.
We got Pablo saying, "What's too weird, Michael?" A lot of discussion about Shadow Man being in New Orleans.
Yeah, we could have Shadow Man.
We could try to conjure him.
Yeah, I'll just shoot him an email at shadowman@valiant.com.
All right, Easy Reader is in. All right, today's trivia is about the impressive comic book series Deadly Class and a small nod to the legend Chris Christopherson.
Wow. Skipping ahead.
All right.
Could you, real quick, I'd love to hear your list of all the celebrities that didn't matter that you pushed Chris Christopherson.
I can't win, Alex. All right?
That's right.
You yell at me for not going fast enough, and then I try to adjust when there's a big one hits.
I just think there's a lot of celebrities who died, and you're disrespecting them.
The idea that Pete hears about a celebrity death and he breaks out in a cold sweat. No, not another one.
And there's so many. There's so many all the time, and then I gotta pick one. It's just
here's what you got to do. This is a legit suggestion because I think it would be funny as well. Go to IMDb collaborations and then put in the names of dead celebrities, so you can get 2 dead celebrities at the same time in the same movie or TV show.
Anyways,
what do you want to get? You die, Alex? You want a double funeral with a weirdo?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Funeral? You want to
and they're going to run out of room at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Eventually, they're going to have to double up at those graves.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can't wait to be stacked with I don't know, one of the
Timothy
Fannings.
Chalamet. Oh,
yeah.
Shallow grave. All right. R.I.P. Whistler. Okay, here we go. Please listen to all 3 options before making your selection. Here we go. Question number 1. Yes, this comic was so good they made it into a TV show. And it was such a great role for which actor? Is it A, Benedict Wong, B, Benedict Cumberbatch, or C, Tony Orlando?
So excited to see Tony Orlando.
While we're waiting for the answer, I want to say I'm still stuck on the idea that we got the real Shadow Man for our New Orleans show.
Alex,
no, this isn't a cosplayer. This is the real Shadow Man who came out.
No, Easy Reader. Benedict Cumberbatch was not in the TV show Deadly Class. It was Benedict Wong, and he was amazing in it. And I wish that show could continue just because he was so good. Anyway, questions number 2.
2. You can get 2 out of 3 and win, right?
Oh yeah, you can still win. The amazing writer on this comic has done some legendary comic work, including Tokyo Ghost and Fear Agent. Who is it? Is it A, Rick Remender, B, Rachel McAdams, or C, Booker T. Jones?
What, you throwing an extra celebrity in here? How could you not remember the answer to this question?
See if he gets it. We'll see what's going to happen.
Alex, did you just post we're going to bring back, we'll do a live Cloak and Jabber?
Yeah, we'll do a live.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Bring back our Cloak and Dagger podcast.
Right.
Best name for a podcast that we have come up with.
Yeah, I like the name for the podcast. Oh, Easy Reader says C. Is that correct?
No, it's A. A
is
the.
I think Easy Reader is trying to lose. Is what.
All right, here we go. Last one. Last one, Easy Reader. You can do this, okay? The artist on this comic is a legend. He worked on Guardians of the Galaxy and Superman, just to name a few. Who is it? Is it A, Wes Craig, B, Pat Kiernan, or C, Gary Busey?
I don't know what's happening with the bees on this one.
If you think about it, it gives you a specific answer.
A? Is it
A is correct. Yes.
Wow.
Easy Reader saved it, and he will win $25 free to
like every public school in Rochester, you only need a 1 out of 3 to pass.
That's right. Don't knock it till you've been there and lived through it. You know what I mean?
Congratulations. You've gotten a $25 gift card to Midtown Comics. Shoot us an email and we'll get that to you, Easy Reader. Pete, what is the secret movie you were referring to?
Of course, we're talking about the 1976 musical film, A Star is Born.
Wow. How are you not doing Blade? How did you not do Blade?
I gave Whistler a shout out in the beginning. Blade, obviously, but, you don't want to be too obvious with these things.
Yeah, you went to Whistler's mother.
Yeah.
No.
Man, I love Chris Christopherson. What a career! What a versatile, talented man. Yeah. There's a clip that's going around where he's playing his song that Johnny Cash recorded that became a #1 hit for Johnny Cash, and they're doing it together, and you can see how proud he is when he's singing with Johnny Cash. It is so moving.
That's exactly why I didn't do Blade, because I wanted to give a nod to his musical career, and A Star Born is a great way to do it because he's amazing in that film.
But when he blows up the wall and kills all the vampires that have Blade hostage, that's also dope as fuck. So
I mean the way he does amazing things in Blade 1 and 2. But yeah.
And Stray Bullet said it shouts out Sunday Morning Coming Down, great track. Just a great track.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, before we wrap up here, as we all know, new comic books are coming out tomorrow. What are you guys excited for? I'll start it off just because we mentioned it, but there's all the DC All-In stuff. We've got Absolute Power is wrapping up, the DC All-In Special, a big flip book, and there's a couple of titles that are labeled DC All-In as well. There's a new Poison Ivy, Batman, a couple of other books that I'm forgetting, but excited to see what they have in store over at the old Detective Comics.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes special #1 is going to be great, and also I hear a lot of great things about Skin Police #1.
Pete is being chased by the Skin Police as we speak. I guess I'll shout out the Deviant #8. I believe this is the second to last issue of this comic. This comic has been absolutely haunting. I'm very excited to see how we get to the end. And then I'll also say Absolute Power. I also shouted that out. But Plastic Man No More has been a really good, interestingly written book from the first issue. And I'm excited to see how it goes forward when Plastic Man is not the hero, not the goofy hero. It's looking at a little bit of the dark side and how that continues.
And all those books are going to be in our Stack podcast that airs, posts Wednesday, 9 a.m. in the Stack feed and the Comic Book Club feed. So check it all out there. And folks, that is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Saurabh Bhatia for coming on to talk about Comix.one. Yes. Also, Chris Golden and Thomas E. Sniegoski for talking about Hellboy and the B.P.R.D, the Goddess of Manhattan. Next week, we're going to have a packed show. Anthony Del Cole is going to be here to talk about Romeo versus Juliet, a Kill Shakespeare story. Yeah. Also, Plaid Klaus is going to be back on the show to talk about Digital Bardos. And John Jackson Miller is going to be here to talk about Batman Resurrection, an official novel continuation of the original Batman movie. A couple of other things to plug. Comic Book Club News, as we mentioned earlier, our daily news podcast. Check that out Monday through Friday every morning. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast. We are breaking down Agatha all along every week right now. And Sons of a Gun, our DC podcast. We're talking about the Penguin. And of course, all three of us will be there to talk about the Joker 2. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support the show and all the shows we do. You can subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, or the app of your choice. At Comic Book Live on Twitter /X. Comic Book Club Live on Instagram and TikTok. ComicBookClubLive.com. For this podcast and many more. Until next time, rip Pete Rose.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Take care of yourself out there. We need you.
Pete Icon.
It was Doctor Strange. All the B answers were nod to Doctor Strange.
Why? You don't know.
Why not?
I don't know.
Why not?
Weird.
I don't know.
That is weird. That is even weirder than usual.
All right. Bye. Good night, everybody.